Hollywood loves to put young stars on pedestals. Perfect smiles, flawless abs, and careers built on keeping everyone happy. But what happens when those same stars decide to tell the truth? For decades, coming out has been the riskiest move in the industry. It can end contracts, alienate fans, and turn yesterday's heartthrob into today's headline. And yet, some stars still did it, choosing honesty over safety, even if it meant risking everything. From Disney darlings who shocked the world, to breakout Netflix idols forced into the spotlight, to TV favorites whose secrets nearly destroyed their careers, these stories prove that courage doesn't come without a cost. Each of these men could have stayed silent. Instead, they spoke up. And in doing so, they didn't just change their own lives. They changed Hollywood. You're watching Rainbow Spotlight, the channel that uncovers the scandals, mysteries, and LGBTQ+ stories Hollywood doesn't want you to hear. Other creators beg for your subscription from the start. We're not like them. Stick around until the end, and only hit subscribe if we've earned it. And before we begin, tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? Garrett Clayton was the golden boy Disney built for perfection. With his all-American smile, beach-ready body, and teen idol charm, he seemed destined to follow in the footsteps of Zac Efron. Starring in Teen Beach Movie, Garrett became every tween's crush, the safe, squeaky-clean heartthrob who made Disney millions. But behind that flawless image was a truth that Disney, and much of Hollywood, wasn't ready for. And when Garrett finally came out, he didn't just tell his story, he risked everything. From the beginning, Garrett knew the rules. Disney idols were meant to be marketable, crush-worthy for teenage girls, and spotless in the public eye. There was no space for being openly gay. Executives warned him that his career would be over if he came out too soon. Agents suggested fake girlfriends. Publicists advised silence. For years, Garrett played along, hiding his truth behind smiles and scripted appearances. But the facade couldn't last. In 2018, Garrett finally decided he had enough. In an emotional Instagram post, he came out publicly, revealing not just that he was gay, but that he was in a committed relationship with writer Blake Knight. It wasn't just a confession, it was a rebellion against an industry that had tried to erase him. The reaction was explosive. Fans flooded social media with support, praising Garrett for his bravery. But behind the scenes, the cost was real. Casting directors stopped calling. Leading roles vanished. Garrett himself admitted later that industry figures warned him outright. If you come out, you will never be the leading man again. And in many ways, they were right. The blockbuster opportunities that seemed inevitable after Teen Beach Movie never materialized. Still, Garrett refused to back down. Instead of chasing Hollywood's approval, he leaned into independent projects, stage performances, and advocacy. He became vocal about the damage of forcing young actors into closets, telling stories of the suffocating pressure he lived under. Fans who once loved him for his looks now admired him for his courage. Garrett Clayton was no longer just a pretty Disney face. He was a man who took the risk and paid the price for living authentically. The fan debate has never stopped. Supporters call him a trailblazer who sacrificed fame for truth. Critics argue he could have stayed quiet and had a bigger career. But Garrett himself has been clear. No amount of fame was worth hiding who he was. His shocking choice may have cost him leading man status in Hollywood, but it gave him something far more powerful: freedom. By 2025, Garrett Clayton stands as a symbol of what it means to risk everything. He could have been another Disney star who played the game, but instead he rewrote the rules. His story isn't just about coming out. It's about breaking chains, inspiring fans, and proving that no studio can own your truth. So what do you think? Did Garrett Clayton sacrifice too much, or did he win the only battle that really matters? Drop a 1 in the comments if you think his courage makes him one of Hollywood's bravest gay stars. Kit Connor was never supposed to be a headline. He was supposed to be a rising star, the charming, red-haired British actor whose role in Netflix's Heartstopper turned him into the internet's new obsession. Fans adored him for his soft looks, natural acting, and the way he brought Nick Nelson, a bisexual teen, to life with authenticity. But in 2022, Kit's life took a shocking turn. At just 18 years old, he was forced to reveal a truth that should have been his alone. The pressure began as Heartstopper exploded worldwide. Kit's chemistry with co-star Joe Locke was so believable that fans blurred the line between fiction and reality. Twitter threads, TikTok edits, and fan forums were filled with speculation. Was Kit Connor gay, straight, or something in between? For a teenager barely stepping into adulthood, the scrutiny was relentless. Then came the backlash. When Kit was photographed holding hands with actress Maya Rafiko, fans accused him of queer-baiting, using a queer role without being queer himself. The internet storm grew so vicious that Kit, who had never publicly labeled his sexuality, was cornered. In November 2022, he tweeted, "I'm bi." Congrats for forcing an 18-year-old to out himself. It was one of the most shocking and heartbreaking moments in recent Hollywood history. Coming out is supposed to be empowering, a choice made on one's own terms. For Kit, it was the opposite, forced by online bullying, robbed of privacy, and exposed before he was ready. The reaction was explosive. Fans and media outlets condemned the toxic culture that pressured a teenager into such a vulnerable confession. LGBTQ+ activists rallied around him, calling it a wake-up call about entitlement and the dangers of fandom gone too far. But even with support, the damage was done. Kit had been denied the chance to write his own story. The industry's reaction was cautious. Some praised him for being brave, but others whispered about how Hollywood still punishes young men who don't fit the perfect leading man mold. For Kit, the risk wasn't just personal, it was professional. Would producers now see him as too niche? Would his bisexuality affect the roles he was offered? Those questions still hang in the air in 2025. Yet through the pain, Kit found strength. Instead of retreating, he doubled down on his career, using his voice to highlight the importance of letting actors, especially young ones, have control over their identity. He became a symbol not just of courage but of resilience. Fans who once speculated about his life now defend him fiercely, knowing the cost he paid. What makes Kit Connor's story shocking isn't just that he came out, it's how he was forced to. At 18, when most are just beginning to understand themselves, Kit risked everything in front of the entire world. So what about you? Do you think Kit Connor's forced coming out made him stronger? Or did Hollywood and fandom steal something from him he can never get back? Drop a 2 in the comments if you think his story is the most heartbreaking risk of all. Colton Haynes had the kind of face Hollywood was built for, chiseled jaw, piercing eyes, and the kind of all-American charm that made him a teen idol before he even turned 20. From Teen Wolf to Arrow, Colton wasn't just another actor. He was a poster boy for the CW generation, the guy fans plastered on bedroom walls and Tumblr feeds. But behind the red carpets and shirtless photo shoots was a truth Colton fought to keep hidden, and when it finally came out, it nearly destroyed him. For years, rumors swirled. Colton's model-perfect looks, his roles as brooding young heartthrobs, and whispers from the industry kept speculation alive. But in early Hollywood, being gay was still seen as a career killer, especially for someone who made his living as a sex symbol. Agents advised him to stay closeted. Executives warned him he'd lose everything. And Colton, desperate to succeed, stayed silent. The silence, however, came at a cost. He later revealed the mental health toll of living a double life, panic attacks, substance abuse, and long hospital stays. By 2016, after a Tumblr post casually confirmed what many suspected, Colton Haynes officially came out. To fans, it looked like liberation. To Colton, it was terrifying. He admitted he thought it might be the end of his career. The reaction was mixed. LGBTQ plus fans celebrated him, praising his courage. But behind the scenes, the industry proved the warnings weren't wrong. Leading man opportunities dried up. Roles that once seemed guaranteed vanished. Colton himself said, "I was told I couldn't be gay and be a star." For a man who had worked his entire life to break into Hollywood, the cost of honesty was devastating. Yet through the pain, Colton reinvented himself. Instead of chasing the straight heartthrob roles, he leaned into projects where his authenticity mattered more than image. He became an outspoken advocate for mental health and LGBTQ plus representation, using his platform to expose the cruelty of an industry that had forced him into silence. Fans began to see him not just as a pretty face, but as a survivor, a man who had risked everything for the chance to live freely. The fan debate remains. Was Colton robbed of the megastar career he deserved, or did coming out free him from a system that would have destroyed him anyway? Supporters argue his bravery gave young queer fans someone to look up to. Critics point to his stalled career as proof that Hollywood still punishes authenticity. What makes Colton's story shocking isn't just that he came out. It's the raw honesty about the price he paid. Fame, health, even his sense of self, all nearly lost to a secret he wasn't allowed to keep or share on his own terms. By 2025, Colton Haynes is no longer the closeted teen idol of the CW. He's a symbol of survival, proof that the hardest battles aren't fought on screen but behind closed doors. So what do you think? Did Colton Haynes sacrifice the stardom he was born for, or did he gain something far more valuable? Drop a 3 in the comments if you think his shocking story is the bravest of all. Ben Aldridge isn't the kind of star who screams Hollywood heartthrob at first glance. He's subtle, charming, and the type of actor whose talent sneaks up on you, whether in Fleabag's razor-sharp comedy or in the chilling horror of Knock at the Cabin. But what makes Ben's story unforgettable isn't just his acting. It's the shocking risk he took when he came out as gay, at a moment when his career was finally gaining momentum. For years, Ben kept his private life separate from his work. He was building a steady reputation as a versatile British actor, working his way up from TV dramas to streaming hits. But in 2020, in the middle of a world turned upside down, Ben posted something that stunned fans, a heartfelt message about embracing his identity as a gay man. He paired it with photos from pride marches and a caption that left no room for doubt. It wasn't a press conference. It wasn't a magazine exclusive. It was quiet, authentic, and deeply personal. And in that simplicity, it was shocking. Because Hollywood, even in the 2020s, still punishes actors who live openly. For Ben, who was just beginning to break into international recognition, the risk was enormous. The reaction was immediate. Fans flooded social media with support, praising his courage. But industry insiders knew what it meant. Some casting directors still cling to outdated stereotypes, believing openly gay men can't be leading men in blockbuster films. For Ben, the unspoken risk was that by telling the truth, he might close the door on the very roles he had worked his entire life to reach. But instead of shrinking, Ben grew louder. In interviews, he spoke openly about the importance of representation, about how hiding his identity for years had taken a toll, and about how he wanted to inspire young queer people. His performance in Knock at the Cabin, where he played a gay parent fighting for his family's survival, was more than just a role. It was a reflection of his truth. The fan debate has been fascinating. Supporters see him as a trailblazer, someone proving that talent and honesty can coexist. Critics argue that his career might have been bigger if he had stayed quiet, playing into Hollywood's illusion of the perfect straight leading man. But Ben himself is clear. Authenticity is worth more than stardom. What makes Ben Aldridge's story shocking isn't the act of coming out itself, it's the timing. He could have waited, played the game, and protected his career. Instead, he risked it all right as his star was rising. That gamble in many ways defined him, not as just another actor, but as a man whose truth is inseparable from his art. By 2025, Ben Aldridge is still climbing, but on his own terms. His story proves that in Hollywood, risking everything doesn't always mean losing. It can mean finally being seen. So what do you think? Did Ben Aldridge risk too much by coming out when he did, or did he win the only role that really matters? Himself? Drop a 4 in the comments if you think his story is the most inspiring risk of all. Connor Jessup is the kind of actor Hollywood loves, handsome, talented, and versatile enough to disappear into any role. From Falling Skies to Locke and Key, he built a career as the sensitive, complex young man who could carry both sci-fi blockbusters and intimate dramas. But while his characters were finding themselves on screen, Connor was fighting a much bigger battle off-screen. And when he finally came out, it wasn't just an announcement. It was a shocking act of defiance against the silence Hollywood had demanded from him. For most of his early career, Connor stayed quiet about his personal life. He knew the rules. Young male stars were supposed to be crush-worthy, marketable to teenage girls, and free from controversy. Agents and executives warned him, "Don't risk it, don't label yourself, don't make it harder." For years, he followed that advice, burying his truth and living with the fear of being outed. Then, in 2019, everything changed. On his 25th birthday, Connor posted an Instagram photo with a long caption that stunned fans. "I knew I was gay when I was 13, but I hid it. I regret not coming out sooner, but here I am." It was raw, honest, and shocking, not because he was gay, but because he admitted the fear and shame that kept him hidden for so long. The reaction was immediate. Fans celebrated his courage, while fellow actors praised him for speaking his truth. But the industry reaction was more complicated. Connor himself later admitted he had been terrified of losing roles, terrified that being openly gay would limit his career. And in some ways, those fears were justified. Hollywood has a long history of sidelining openly gay actors, especially when it comes to leading man roles. Still, Connor refused to hide again. Instead of shrinking, he leaned into authenticity. In interviews, he spoke about how the closet had damaged his mental health, how it had stolen years of joy, and how he wanted to use his platform to make sure young queer kids knew they weren't alone. He also made his relationship with actor Miles Heiser public, proving that love, not fear, would define his story from then on. The fan debate has been powerful. Some argue that coming out too soon might have slowed his momentum in Hollywood. Others insist that Connor gained far more by living freely, setting an example for queer actors who still feel trapped. What no one can deny is that his coming out was one of the most heartfelt and shocking in recent years. Not for the drama, but for the honesty. By 2025, Connor Jessup is still one of Hollywood's brightest young talents. He may not be playing the generic heartthrob roles studios once imagined for him, but he's playing something far more important: himself. His story proves that sometimes risking everything doesn't just change your career, it changes your life. So what about you? Do you think Connor Jessup's honesty cost him stardom? Or did it give him the only kind of freedom that really matters? Drop a 5 in the comments if you think his story is the bravest risk of all. Five men, 5 different journeys, and 5 shocking reminders that in Hollywood, being honest about who you are can be the riskiest role of all. From Garrett Clayton breaking free of Disney's closet, to Kit Connor being forced to reveal the truth far too young, to Colton Haynes fighting for survival after years of silence, to Ben Aldridge risking his rising career with one powerful post, and Connor Jessup confessing the fear that haunted him since childhood. Each story proves that courage always comes at a cost. In a world that still rewards silence, these stars chose truth. They risked contracts, careers, and reputations, but in return, they gave millions of fans something far more valuable: hope, representation, and the power to know they aren't alone. You've been watching Rainbow Spotlight, the channel that uncovers the scandals, mysteries, and LGBTQ+ stories Hollywood doesn't want you to hear. Other creators beg for your subscription from the start. We're not like them. If this video kept you hooked until the very end, only then hit subscribe and turn on the bell. Now it's your turn. Whose story inspired you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments and tell us. Would you risk everything for the truth?